I'm Nelson CARAYANNIS, and I am a cinematographer, and I film King of the Dot battles. My particular job filming King of the Dot battles is working with Kyle or Avocado. And basically just like the whole name of the game is I think we've really kind of figured out kind of the tech part of the battles is usually just logistical issues, but what a lot of my job is, I feel like, is really just trying to dial in the way something's going to look. Either if it's with camera movement, or what I generally prefer more than anything is just mood with light and lensing. But yeah, that's kind of like more or less the gist of my job, is just kind of helping dial in the look and stuff, and then shooting, like, you know, physically operating the camera. The first battle event that I shot was Blackout 2. It's the first battle event I had ever been to. I mean, I had seen old Scribble Jam battles on videotape, and I had no idea that the form had changed as much as it had. Didn't kind of know what to expect, and that was when Hollow Hand battled. The battle that stands out the most to me is Hollow Hand versus Cortez. That was kind of an epic battle, and that was also when like people were staying in the shittiest hotel in Toronto. I remember going over there and shooting portraits in this hotel room. I actually think I have a whole picture of it somewhere. We like had to tip the beds up on the side of the walls and everything, and like clear the room out completely. It looked like a total disaster, and then we'd put like black paper up to do the interviews.
And then we sat in there for like 12 hours.
Yeah, we sat in there
like as people were like partying in the hallways, and then like came inside like, oh yeah, I'll do an interview, buddy.
I think Hollow actually did like cocaine before he did his interview.
What do you guys want me to talk about?
Which I was already like, this guy's awesome. I brought a red one, just a big tank of a camera. We had like a little slider just to give us a little bit of movement. I think we shot with like a 24-1.4. We kept everything like pretty shallow. We're on this kind of shitty slider, actually, this little Cinovate Atlas. The slider like would bobble really bad, like because it was just the two rails. There was no like plate on it, so yeah, I don't know. I think it was really interesting. Like I'm not like, I'm becoming a battle fan slowly, but I am definitely not like your typical demographic. More like a white dude who lives in Colorado who like fucking films commercials and climbing shit, and you know, like coming to a battle it was really funny seeing how like honestly for the most part how in a way genuinely cool these people are when they're not their avatar. You know, they're just fucking people that are, most of them I'd say are like trying to be just professional as they can be. You know, had my first battle event been Bola 5.
Yeah. The one where it is punch man.
Yeah, I don't think I would have came back. Like, you and I have like this curse that's like we're always trying to do something bigger, better, usually, and like, man, like that battle was kind of fatiguing, but it was nowhere near like, I was wiped out because I had also just come off of like a heinous ice climbing shoot. I had just came off like a heinous ice climbing shoot and then flew out to you. I was just smoked and already, and then we were like on top of it, we're like drinking and
yeah.
like standing, just a lot of standing around. I think the battle events can get really like really fatiguing. The hardest ones were like Takeover. Hands down, Takeover was probably the hardest battle event I ever shot, because we were like shooting with these really unbalanced shoulder rigs with red cameras, and they just started getting heavy, and then the place we were shooting in was like just some shitty, it was like a Mr. Rags. It was like some shitty clothing store that like they turned the AC off to save money because they were being cheap, and like so everybody just have all these like sweaty dudes in there. Just piled in.
He was using a paper plate to like fan himself.
He was dying, man. I was like, yeah, we were all, that was definitely a lot more. That was more intensive than say like probably, I'd say Vendetta was pretty mellow for me. For you,
They did a 1?
Yeah, you were running around everywhere.
Yeah,
like,
that sucked.
You were all over the place
Yeah.
dealing with live pay-per-view, but
Yeah.
for me, once the cameras and lights were up and running,
It was easy.
yeah, other than controlling the crowd that like have no respect for the camera guys. Like,
Yeah.
for some reason, everybody has to pile in there and bump into you, and it's like
Totally. You get like dolly tracks. They're just like standing on, so you can't dolly over there anymore. And they're
Yeah.
just standing in your way. It's like,
defeating. Like you're like I feel like a lot of times when you're filming, you're serving a bigger crowd of people
Yeah.
than the people that are there. But the people that are there, like, I mean, they paid money.
yeah.
Obviously,
It's also a double-edged sword because it's like you don't want to fuck the people there because it will ruin the atmosphere.
Mhm.
Thus, will ruin what we're filming. So it's
Yeah.
like it's such a hard thing trying to like make everyone happy for that shit.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too, like, so I remember watching battle videos beforehand and seeing them now. You can tell, like, there are people who have, like, kind of caught on to, like, I'd say kind of like the avocado formula. And it's like, that's becoming, like, a standard, and it's interesting, like, trying to, like, now be like, where do you go now?
Yeah.
And I think for us, like, really the answer is definitely a different direction than, like, you know, like bringing fucking cranes to battles and stuff. Like, you know, they don't
Yeah.
really work anyway.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, who cares what's up here anyway?
Yeah.
The battle's down there.
Yeah.
At the tender age of 16 years old. No, I think I met you. I was like a junior in high school, and it was the summer between my junior and senior year and your freshman and sophomore year. And you were filming kids skateboarding, some other kids in Castle Rock skateboarding, and I rolled down, and I remember meeting you, and I was like, man, that kid's got a nice camera. I was like, maybe you could come film with us. And it pretty much started like that. Pretty selfishness. That's how we met. I was being a selfish teenager, just trying to like skate. We made a skate video and produced it full on, called Unforeseen Shadows, released on VHS. Then after that, I think we made like a few other like short, small videos. But those were after you left Colorado and went to San Francisco to go to the Art Institute. And by that time I was already kind of fading out of like skateboarding. I moved into my truck, and I was like sleeping in my truck, driving around the US and just climbing a lot.
Jeez, how long did you live in your truck for?
I lived in my truck for 2 years. And that was a really important part for me of my life, I think, because it kind of pushed me into like a direction where, like, most people would be like, oh, you gotta get a career and this and that. Like, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't know what I really wanted, I think. And what I really wanted was to like work filming and work production and have like variety, and with that comes not a steady paycheck. So you just have to accept it when you do that, when you make that decision. You know, so like I basically just jumped in, like I had like a credit card with like a $30,000 limit on it, and I like jumped in like 10 grand. Well, I jumped in like 8 grand, and then I had
to buy the truck, or
to buy a camera and like a computer,
word. Yeah.
and like yeah. So I jumped in like 10 grand more or less or so to buy a computer and everything. So I bought like a DVX 100B when they were like first popular, and just went around it. And I was already with like the best climbers in the world, so I traveled all over the world filming these guys. Yeah, and then I went to work for a company called Chuck Freiberger Films. While I was working there is when we reconnected, and I came out and shot Blackout 2.
Yeah.
I remember like thinking back to like starting to film again, and like cameras had changed so much, like from like the old VX 1000 days.
Yeah.
It was like camera shot, like you could shoot 24p onto tape, and your tapes would last like 45 minutes. You have like an hour-long tape, but if you shot 24p, it would last like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then bumping it out. Then the ingesting process sucked.
Totally. Digitizing. Real time.
Yeah.
Like if you had 10 hours of footage, you had to fucking digitize 10 hours.
10 hours footage. I would just digitize a whole tape and not even go through, like, you know, people like...
Yeah, in and out.
Yeah, in and out.
Totally.
Batch capture, I would
Yeah.
never do it. I'd just do the whole tape. My favorite trick I ever did skating was doing a hard flip over what we called the V-gap. That was probably one of my favorites. I have like a photo of that somewhere.
You like that more than the frontside flip?
Over the V-gap?
Yeah, because remember you frontside flipped it too.
That was actually Josh Casper.
No, you frontside flipped it.
No, I didn't.
He did.
Really?
Yeah. In light.
I guess I did. Dude, kickflip no slide. Probably down the ledge
Phoenix.
in Phoenix was probably one of my all-time favorite tricks that I did that just felt really good to do. Yeah, I drink. Does bear shit in the woods? Obviously, I like beer. I live in Colorado, and we have a lot of beer, a lot of good beer that's being brewed up there. But I also think I really like a whiskey called 10 High out of Salt Lake. It's probably one of my favorite. And then Evil Twin Brewing, like all their beers are like my favorites now. But now I'm stuck choking down this like Skoka. Liquor stores in Canada close at like 7:30. I think they close as soon as it gets dark, and that's when you should be drinking. But the Canadians, I just think they don't go out at night. So one of my most epic drinking stories as a kid was I was like 19 years old and went on a road trip with a bunch of people for a clothing company I skated for called Horizon Clothing. And basically we were in Durango. There was like 10 of us. The owner of the clothing company, for some reason, like a week before, pulled me aside to tell me that his dick was really big and it hurts women. He like basically pulled me aside. I was like 19 and he's like, Nelson, man, he's like, I got a problem. And I was like, what's the matter? Like, he's like, dude, my dick is like the size of a soup can. It's just like a soup can. And I was just like, I remember being like, oh my God. Like, because anytime Will started talking, it was like gold was about to come out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. And so basically he tells me the story about how he has sex with women. And he's like, it seriously hurts them. Like, I basically I think I called up my friend Taylor. And then like it just spread like wildfire. Like everybody was like, Will has a dick like a soup can? And why did he tell us that? So we go to Durango, and now Will's super, super drunk. And we were at this wild house party. Some dude backed his truck into the gas main of the house, and everybody had to split.
Oh my God.
You know, so we're back at like where we're staying, and Will just passes out. Like you can't even talk to him. Like people were like smacking him in the face like as hard as they could, and he was like just slobbering and like all out of it. One of my friends disappears, and we're just still partying and drinking, like, hey Will, wake up, like kind of laughing because he was like breathing, he was fine, he was just that drunk and that passed out. And then like a few minutes later, my buddy comes back with a pot of like, I don't think it was boiling, but it was hot as fuck water. Like you could see the steam coming off it. He just dumps it on the dude. and Will like just jolts up and then falls to his knees and he just looks at everybody and he's like, you burned my soup can. And then boom, falls down like straight onto his face. And everybody just died laughing. The next morning, he was like, if you show that footage to anyone, you're going to ruin me in this industry. And then his company went out of business like a week later. That was that in-between time when I wasn't skating anymore. I was kind of living in my truck. I was kind of spending a lot of time like not partying, and I guess we went to a camp out where I was like way older. I shouldn't have been there.
We were all way older.
Like none of us.
It was a high school camp out.
Yeah, it was like a high school.
We were like in our 20s.
Yeah, we went to a high school camp out, and I shouldn't have been there. Like I was like 21.
Yeah.
Or 22. I remember like sitting at this campfire and just looking at all these young kids, just realizing like, man, I shouldn't be here, but I've been drinking, so now I'm sort of stuck here. And out of nowhere, these kids come out with like Roman candle fireworks, and they're shooting at everyone. And they shot me in the back with a Roman candle. It burned a hole in my coat, and I got so mad. I threw a beer bottle into this kid's head, and I just remember watching like the bottle, like I threw it like a football. I don't know why. It was just instant rage, and the bottle hit him in the head like this. And man, this scream came out of him. Like he fell to the ground, like holding his ear, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. I was working for a little bit, like to make ends meet. I was working cleaning houses. I had no bed, and this woman that worked with me, she was like, I got a bed in the basement, like an old water bed if you want it. And I was like, fuck yeah, water bed free? Hell yeah. So I bring this water bed home and like fill it up, and it's like everything works. And like water beds suck to sleep on. Like I always had like a sore neck when I'd wake up in the morning and shit. So one day I go to work, and she's like, do you want to know what's really fun to do with a water bed? And I was like, what? And she's like, my husband Marvin and I, every once in a while, we'd strip the sheets off the bed and just cover it in baby oil, and we'd get naked and just slide around and have a good time. And the only thing I think about was like that. They did that with my water bed they gave me. This was like towards the end of like my skateboarding life, where I was like probably not as good as I used to be, and like I realized it. So skate trips for me at that time were just fucking rowdy fun, like maybe some of the most out of control times of my younger years. And basically what happened was we went to Albuquerque, and we took this young kid. He was like maybe 15 or 16. I was like 21. We took him for some reason, like it was okay. His parents were cool with it, to Albuquerque. and he was so excited to go on the skate road trip with all these guys that were like supposedly good. He didn't know we were all burnt out by then. And Jeff Hamilton's brother, this guy's brother, was there, and you were there too, if I remember right. And so what happened is Phil was kind of tired, and he was like, guys, I want to go to bed, so don't be loud tonight. We were all sharing a hotel room that I put on my deposit. We go to liquor store, and as we walk out, there's just this homeless, fucking intoxicated as all shit, like fucking Native American dude. And I was like, hey man, do you want to party with us? And he was just all, yeah. Like, there was not even like a, what's your name?
Yeah.
Like, and so as we're walking back to our hotel, he's like, my name's Ron Crowchild. And that guy, we got him so drunk, like so unbelievably drunk. And we were like going to go skinny dipping in the swimming pool. And he was the only dude that got butt ass naked. Like this dude's like 50. Yeah. Getting butt naked and like swimming in the hotel swimming pool that was like in the center of the hotel. There's like a courtyard around the pool, so everyone could see him butt naked. And then comes back to the hotel room, and he's like shit hammered. Like he says like all these crazy Indian prayers and prayers for like everybody, like cries and shit. And then like we dropped him off in the ghetto somewhere. Like we were like, where can we take you? He's like. And his directions were like, he was like, you can just go up here and turn left. I'm just going to a friend's house. We're like, you sure you're going to a friend's house? He's like, yeah. And he's like, up here on the right looks good. And we like just turn right. Like he was just weaving us through like some random place. And he's like, oh, this looks good. Like, I'll get I'm here. And I'm like, are you at your friend's house? It's like this random weird neighborhood. And he's all, yeah, this is good. This is good here. And just like walked off into the darkness and never saw him again.